Hi, everybody. My name's Sam Bennett from theorganizedartistcompany.com, and welcome to this presentation around decision making. You know, I work predominantly with people who would self-describe as creatives, so they're writers, they're teachers, they're artists, they're performers, or they're entrepreneurs. Either way, however you define what you do, you're trying to create something out of nothing. You're trying to take the visions in your mind and bring them to life. And that means you have a really fertile imagination. It means you think of things all the time. You've got a million great ideas all the time. And it can be really challenging to decide which of your 137 great ideas is really the best one to be moving forward on right in this red hot second. So what I'd like to do is take you through a little process that I talk about in my book, Get It Done, From Procrastination to Creative Genius in 15 Minutes a Day. And it's very simple. It works for everything. And we'll do it here together so you know step by step exactly how to do it. I will say ahead of time that this whole thing is predicated on your desire. This worksheet is about getting down to what you really want in your deepest heart of hearts. And that may seem on the surface to be a little obvious. Like, well, I know what I want, Sam, But do you really? Because sometimes we want something, but then we talk ourselves out of it right away. Oh, it's going to be too expensive or too time consuming, or that's too hard, or I don't know how to do that. And if something is time consuming, hard, expensive, you don't know how, and you don't want to, cross it off the list. Why would you even bother, right? On the other hand, if it's something you really want to do, sometimes we don't mind that something is expensive or time-consuming or hard. And we're willing to learn how because we really want to do it. So I'm not saying this is the only determiner. There may be other things you need to consider in terms of what you're deciding to do next. But I want you to start with your desire. You ready? Okay. The first thing I want you to do is write down 5 things that you could be doing or think you should be doing, but you're not doing them. And whatever that means to you. So maybe you're looking to promote your business, or maybe you're looking to get more clients or make more money or have a bigger PR splash, or you just, you already are engaged in a project, you've got a new book you're getting out, but you need to know where to start on the promotion process for that. Whatever it is. And you can also mix up apples and oranges too. So if you want to, here, I'll show you. I did one in advance. So this is called the Pure Preference Worksheet. Pure preference, because that's all we're talking about is your pure preference. And I put down 5 things that I could or someone could potentially be doing to grow their business. So I could start a podcast. I could do some more corporate speaking gigs. I could create a new ebook. I could start a meetup, some kind of live free thing. And I want to encourage you to include at least one completely weird wackadoodle, that's the craziest idea ever idea. So my wackadoodle idea is move to Belize. Okay? So do you have 5? If you don't have 5 written down yet, you can pause this video until you have, but work right off the top of your head. Pondering does not help this process. Your intuition does a lot better than you think it does. Okay, so you have 5 things that you think you should be doing or that you think you'd like to be doing, but you're not currently doing them. Got it? Okay. Now we're going to compare these things one-to-one. This is what's called a paired comparison worksheet. That's the name of this type of worksheet. I did not invent this thing. I think I first heard about it on in the book, What Color is Your Parachute? Which is an excellent book. But it's a great device because you may have noticed that your brain is this incredible problem-solving machine. It's so good at answering questions. You give it a question, boom, it spits out an answer. Unless there are too many unknowns or too many variables. Too many unknowns, your brain doesn't even know where to start. Too many variables, the gears grind, right? You start going, well, I could do this, but maybe it could be this. Maybe I should do this. I used to do that. Maybe I should try that. That seems to be working for that person over there. Maybe I should try that. Blah, 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 blah. right? So we're just going to do one-to-one comparisons, and I'll tell you how to do that in a second. But in order for this to really be a success, I need you to imagine something with me. I need you to imagine that we are in a world very much like this world, but a tiny bit different. And the way in which it's a tiny bit different is that you and I are living in this universe in which everything happens really easily, really effortlessly. Everything just unfolds perfectly. Even things that we know are hard or time-consuming or difficult to do, somehow in this universe that we're in just for this time right now, it's just a snap. Everything comes with free parking and good craft services and cute shoes and nice people, and it all just, everything pays $1 million. Everything pays $1 million in this scenario, right? Okay, so in this world in which everything happens really easily, I want you to imagine that I have the thing you wrote down at line number 1 in this hand, and the thing you wrote down at line number 2 in this hand. Now, just between 1 and 2, in this world in which everything happens effortlessly, which do you prefer? Which one is most meaningful to you? Which one seems yummier, sparklier, more interesting, more fun? And just go right off the top of your head, or even more to the point, really right off the bottom of your belly, right? So if I were doing mine between 1 and 2, thing, which is between podcast and corporate speaking, I'd rather do corporate speaking. So I'm writing down number 2, just to remember for myself which one I picked. Good. Now I'm standing in front of you, and I've got the thing you wrote down at line number 1 in this hand, and the thing you wrote down at line number 3 in this hand. Between 1 and 3, which one do you prefer? Which one seems more exciting, more zhuzhy, more sexy, more fun? For me, between 1 and 3, I'm gonna go with 3. Now, thing you wrote down at line number 1, thing you wrote down at line number 4. Between 1 and 4, which do you prefer? Between 1 and 4, 4. Good. And now between 1 and 5, you can have all of them. Which one would you want first? Which one do you desire more? Between 1 and 5? 5. Good. Now, I've got the thing you wrote down at line number 2 in this hand, and the thing you wrote down at line number 3 in this hand. So between 2 and 3, which do you prefer? Between 2 and 3, I'm going to say 3. And now between 2 and 4, which do you prefer? 2. Between 2 and 5, which do you prefer? Which one seems more delicious to you? Good. Now, we're going to keep going. I've got the one you write down at line number 3 and the one you wrote down at line number 4. Between 3 and 4, which one is really calling out to you? And between 3 and 5, which one is really calling out to you? And between 4 and 5, which one do you prefer? Good. So now I made a note down below of which one I picked, so now I'm going to count and add them up. So let's see. Number 1, podcast, got 0 votes. Corporate speaking gig got 1, 2, 3 votes. New ebook, which is what I had at number 3, got 1, 2, 3, 4 votes. Scheduling a meetup got 1 vote. Move to Belize got 2 votes. Now, your results are your results. Sometimes I've done this exercise and like this time, something gets 0. Podcast got 0 votes. Clearly, I would rather sell pencils on the street corner than have podcast. Good information to have, good to know. It's a good idea, it's a good strategy, it's working for a lot of people. It's not for me right now. I can cross it off the list. Good. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes things get 0 because you just generally don't really care about it, which is great to know. Other times things get 0 because it's really fraught for you. Like it's complicated. You've tried it before, you've been burned, you know, like sometimes there's some emotional unpacking that needs to be done around that. So if you're having that feeling, you might want to take a look into those zeros, because that kind of resistance can sometimes be telling you something as well. But if there's no resistance, there's just no interest, great, cross it off the list. Sometimes there's a really strong winner, and sometimes the really strong winner is the crazy daisy thing. I remember I had a client one time who put go to tap dancing class. That's just like the silliest thing she could think of. And it won. And she was like, apparently I'm going to tap dancing class. And she was right. She needed a little more creative outlet in her life. She needed some joy and some dancing and some fun and to try something new and to be a beginner again. Like that was actually a really great business strategy for her, was to go to tap dancing class. There was another time I was working with a guy who was a screenwriter. And he was married, he had a bunch of kids, and his crazy daisy thing was go skydiving. And it got to, as we were going through 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, every time it got to skydiving, he would pick skydiving, but then he would say, like, I don't know why I'm picking that. Like, I don't really want to go skydiving. I would never go skydiving. I have kids. It would be irresponsible. I can't go skydiving. And I'm like, Steve, calm down. Relax. It's just a game. Like, we're not saying you're really going skydiving. Just play along. So he played along, and it seems to me that skydiving didn't actually win, but it did score quite high. And again, he was kind of stressed out about it. And I was like, look, you're a writer, sweetheart. Maybe it means something more metaphorical. You know, maybe you're being called to skydive in your work, or to take some emotional skydive, some emotional risk you would never take otherwise. And all of a sudden, he like got it. It was an amazing, you know, when you can see something happen on somebody's face, all of a sudden he looks at me and he goes, I have to propose to my wife again. I said, what? He said, yeah, you know, some of the romance has gone out of our marriage, and I know she would think that it was really goony and stupid and romantic and mushy of me, but I want to propose to her again and see if she'll marry me now, even though we've got these 4 kids and my career is sort of in and out. And it was so touching and so beautiful. I practically ruined my mascara. So sometimes that crazy daisy thing is really calling to you, is speaking to you in a metaphor or in some emotional language that only you can understand. So keep an eye out for those little clues. Sometimes I do this exercise, and I do this all the time in my actual life, because like you, I have trouble deciding and I get distracted by sparkly things. I end up with a lot of things, like a lot of 2s and 3s, like everything sort of gets the same number of votes. I'm like, aha, no wonder I'm having trouble deciding. I kind of want to do a lot of the same things the same, like in equal amount. So this tells me that now I need to move on to some of my other determiners, right? Like what's going to bring in the most money, or what's the low-hanging fruit, or what involves somebody else that I think I might like to work with, or what can be done quickest, whatever it is that also might figure into the decision. That's when you want to bring some of those things in. Okay. I want to tell you one other story about this worksheet. Some years ago, I was on the board of advisors for an organization called Lizas Place, L-E-E-Z-A, Lizas Place, named for Lisa Gibbons, who founded it. You may remember her as a entertainment reporter on television. And she founded this organization, and it's designed to help people with Alzheimer's and other long-term memory-related disorders and their caregivers. They're great. So they have like memory fitness classes and chair aerobics and ice cream socials, and they're a great resource and referral center. If you know somebody who's a caregiver or somebody who's caring for somebody with Alzheimer's or somebody with Alzheimer's, they're a nationwide organization. So see if there's one in your town, because they're wonderful people. So I had said that I would run a little workshop for a group of caregivers. And we did this exercise because, as you can imagine, it is really difficult to get caregivers to focus on their own needs, even just for a little bit, even just for a second. So I made them list, 5 things that they might want to do, and then 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 2 and 3, 2 and 4, like that, like we just did. And we get to the end, and there's an older woman in a tracksuit sitting right over there, and she is not happy with me. And I said, so, what are you noticing? And she says, well, I'm noticing that I don't get what the point of this exercise is. She says, because, number one on my thing was to take a trip. And I knew it would be to take a trip because I love to travel. But my husband has mid to late stage Alzheimer's. There is no trip for me to take. And I said, yeah, I get it. I said, sometimes it can want something we feel like we can't have. And rather than being all good and brave all the time, to really feel the strength of that desire and to let those feelings out. Feelings just want to be felt. If you try to keep them locked up, they'll get destructive on you. Just letting your feelings know you've been felt can sometimes make a difference. She was completely unimpressed by this answer. Then, thank goodness, a gentleman down at the end of the table said, Mary and I took a trip just a couple months ago. We took a cruise. We took a little 3-day cruise on a boat she had been on before, so she was a little familiar with it. And we went with another couple, so I didn't have to do all the heavy lifting myself. And we had a wonderful time. Like, it was an actual trip. And then the woman sitting across from the woman who was unhappy said, you know what? Joseph and I went for lunch up in Santa Barbara the other day. And we left at 11 and we were home by 4, but didn't it feel like a vacation to be up there on the beach in that beautiful little town? Like, it was a real refreshing trip. All of a sudden, because this woman was willing to admit the thing that she wanted, that she was 100% sure there was no way she could have, but because she was willing to say what it was, it allowed other people's creative brains to start spinning around on how she could actually get the thing that she wanted most. So this is my challenge for you, is where are you not even admitting what you want or how much you want it? Because when you are clear about that which is most important to you, you can move forward with lightning speed. That desire, that's how God talks to us. That desire is your engraved invitation. And it's all anybody gets. I work with Emmy Award winners and Academy Award winners and writers and teachers and healers and artists and performers and all kinds of people, some of whom are hugely successful. Multi-millionaires. And that's all they get, is that little twinge of desire, that little idea that's tugging on their sleeve. Nobody gets more than that. I think sometimes we get distracted by other people's success. We see somebody doing something that we want to do and we think, oh, well, they must have had it easier than me. Well, of course they could do it. They come from a better family, a richer family, or they've got a PhD, or she's so good looking. Well, I'm here to tell you, it is not easier for anybody. All anybody ever gets is that little twinge of an idea, that little desire, that little pull on your sleeve, and no guarantees. And that thing that you think makes it so easy for that other person, their rich family, their PhD, or their beautiful good looks, I guarantee you, for that person, it makes it more difficult. Isn't that odd? It does, though. It makes it more difficult because the person with the rich family is wondering, who's actually my friend? Who actually is hearing me speak? And who's just seeing dollar signs? And the person with a PhD is putting themselves under a microscope about how, is it important enough and is it rigorous enough? And, they don't have the freedom to just create the way some of us do. They don't feel like they do. And it's beautiful. It's wonderful to be a beautiful person and have everybody think you're so attractive until you start to wonder if anybody really sees your soul. So be careful that you do not assume that it's easier for anybody else. Everyone gets the same amount of pain. And everything is just as hard for everybody as your life is for you. I know it may not look that way. I know it may not feel that way. I know some people have very dramatic stories, but I'm here to tell you, everybody gets the same amount of pain. But when you are really focusing on your desire, when you are coming from that whisper of God, from that true heartfelt desire, and then you really put your whole self behind it, your own personality, your own strengths and weaknesses, your own wackadoodle way of looking at the world, suddenly you have something that becomes almost inevitable and certainly indelible. Your work becomes memorable in a way that other people's work never gets to be that memorable. And you start to think of things like that, nobody else would ever think of. And you get to do it in your way. It's the whole reason I founded the Organized Artist Company to begin with, is because I noticed there were all those books out there about how to organize your time and how to be more focused and how to move forward and be better with your team and whatever. And although it's great, but creative people don't really care who's moved their cheese. And then there are all these books out there about creativity and how to unleash your inner artist, or how to, spiritual healing through creativity, which is also great. But what about those of us who are already plenty unleashed? How do we make decisions? As an entrepreneur, how do you make decisions when there are no rules? There is no right way. There is only your way. I think school plays a little trick on us sometimes, because the way you succeed in school is by knowing the answers in advance. It's really even by knowing the questions in advance, right? That's how you do well on tests, is you know the questions and then you know the answers. And life isn't like that. Art isn't like that. Creativity isn't like that. Love isn't like that. And entrepreneurship isn't like that. So you don't get to do things the way everybody else does things. That's called conventional wisdom, and it works for conventional people doing conventional things, and that ain't us. Right? Conventional people doing conventional things, they get to walk up a big wide road up the mountain altogether. And they can even sort of compare themselves a little bit, right? You can say, oh, I went to school, accounting school with that guy, and he's got a corner office now. He's doing better than I am. And you could look at what he did and see if you do that, if you'll do better too. But there's no big wide road for entrepreneurs. You have to create your own path up the mountain. You have to do it using the only skills you have, the only tools you have, which is your intuition, and really start to cultivate that intuition. Really learn to listen to that belly wisdom, those twinges, that voice, that still, tiny, quiet voice that says, maybe try this. Maybe try that. Right? Really start to cultivate that. You've got your intuition, you have your skill sets, you have the things that you've learned to do over time, the things that you're good at and have gotten good at. But mostly what you have is the strength of your desire. So use it. Desire is the gas in your tank. It is what will fuel you. It is what will keep you going when you get discouraged. And the vision of the world that you desire to create, the way in which your work makes the world a better place, is what will sustain you through those moments of self-doubt, of crisis, of adversity, of apparent lack of opportunity. If you hang on to your desire and trust that there is a way, then the way will be made clear. You have to be truthful, and you have to be uncompromising. I'm so glad that you're doing this work in the world. Oh, I forgot to tell you about my free gift. I decided to give you guys a class that I normally sell for $1,000, so don't tell the other kids, okay? It's called Write Great Emails, and if you go to theorganizedartistcompany.com/Allison, Alllyson, so that's the Organized Artist Company, all the way spelled out, theorganizedartistcompany.com/Allison, Alllyson. You can get Write Great Emails, which is a course that I designed to tell you everything I know about writing emails. I have built a $500,000 business. I would like to remember the number. $500,000 business based on creating emails. I won an award as an Ultimate Marketer finalist at Infusionsoft a couple of years ago. I'm Infusionsoft certified consultant and reseller, and I'm excited to share that wisdom and that that information with you. And much like this, it's really tailored to help you find your own natural way, as well as, you know, the things I had to learn the hard way. So that's a bunch of on-demand webinars. You can access at any time. If for some reason you have any trouble, just reach out to me or my team at theorganizedartistcompany.com and we'll get you all hooked up. In the meantime, enjoy that unconference. The world needs your good work. Thank you, everybody.